pink eye. Just listen to this woman. Is it amazing how much nonsense can it fit into such a small package? Indara. An imposing young Oread is surrounded by a crowd of crusaders who are hanging onto their every word. Yeah, woman, so I think, yeah. I hope this example clearly illustrates the difference between Deskari legionnaires from the last war and the Crusaders. The perfection of form and spirit they were imbued with during creation turned them into parts of a well-balanced war machine. Not a wrecked bunch of individuals, but a united whole. Is she denouncing the Crusaders? Oh boy. Jiska. The Jiska Imperium was the first human kingdom to establish itself in the Inner Sea region after centuries of darkness and devastation caused by Earthfall. Its citizens spoke a nearly forgotten language called Jiska, how creative, whose alphabet became the basis of the alphabets of the modern languages of Skalds, Valyrian and Toldane. At its height, it dominated all of northwestern Garund and also parts of southwestern Avistan. Raids of the desert nomads and attacks by powerful outsiders from around 3300 onward, and the lack of a strong eastern trade route led to the slow decline of Jiska. Osirian, then a burgeoning kingdom under the control of the powerful Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues, pushed westward. It overthrew the already weakened Jiska, and the Imperium was plunged into numerous succession wars around 2764. From which it was never again able to recover its former political, military and economic power. Because of this military and economic defeat, the important cultural, magical and technological advances of Jiska Imperium were largely lost and forgotten. How do you know about them? Yeah. Now, tell me again why I'm supposed to be impressed by your reckless assaults where everyone is fighting for their ego, for the right to beat their peers to a swift but pointless heroic sacrifice. Some of the Crusaders grumble unhappily, but it's clear that they are captivated by the woman's words. The only exception is a scraggly and disheveled halfling monk whose puffy black eyes give him away as a brawler and a troublemaker. Yeah, that one. He enthusiastically pushes forward and tries to engage, but one of his friends swiftly jabs him in the back with an elbow, making the poor fellow pause to catch his breath. Ah. Well, it looks like we got ourselves a student of warfare. The woman gives you a suspicious look and raises an eyebrow. Were your words meant to recognize my achievements, or to start a fight the way Mendevian Crusaders usually do? One of the Crusaders angrily curls his fist tightly and retorts with a burst of passion. If those gist of you, or whatever, had come for us, we'd have their guts for garters. You think we've never fought a mighty adversary before? The soldier's stern face cannot fully conceal his relish. He clearly plans to enjoy this confrontation. The Crusaders around him look upon their exotic opponent with a mixture of irritation and piqued interest. The woman chuckles before cutting off her interlocutor. I would love to see you storm a 60-foot tall walking castle, shaped like a gigantic elephant that carries siege weapons on its back. And I'll have you know, these fortifications were defended by Jistican priest craftsmen armed with demon-bound war machines. They use the enemies you cannot defeat as mindless weapons. The woman gives the people around her a triumphant look and adjusts her clothes with pointed nonchalance. Her voice takes on a lecturer's tone. You should not argue with someone who happens to be the most authoritative researcher on the history of warfare and 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. For more than 4,000 years, Absalom has been the city of the center of the world, a metropolis-sized showcase of the greatest treasures on all Golarion. The city not only holds a key strategic position for both commercial and military endeavors in the region, but encompasses the site of ascension of 4 deities and claims to have been founded by none other than the last Aslanti, the god Arodin. The woman looks at you and flashes an amused smile. The lecture's over. Do my esteemed listeners have any questions? Say, who exactly are you? I am Indara, a warrior magus and scholar of classical warfare from Garund. The woman peers at you apprehensively, then sighs. I admit that I am mildly offended by the fact that my name is entirely unfamiliar to you, but I'm willing to accept that this is due to Avistan's isolation from the sophisticated culture of the world at large. Why are you even here if you hate everyone? You've actually come a long way to come here, right? I like to think of myself as an inhabitant of Golarion, and I don't narrowly identify with any country in particular. So, why exactly did you come here in the first place? To witness the legendary war. The confrontation between denizens of a plane famous for its love of violence and the Crusaders from every continent united by the common goal of defending their home. An epic struggle of colossal proportions that hasn't been particularly epic so far, truth be told. The monk with the black eye grins and mutters under his breath. Maybe she can just see it from here. The view will get way more epic if she stops hiding among us and takes a walk outside. The woman smirks contemptuously. He does not deem the monk's words worthy of comment. Well, I have to say I disagree. The Crusaders are doing a commendable job at resisting the demons. More than you. Oh yes, and the situation we have found ourselves in can attest to that. But then again, demons are no better. Their preferred strategy also involves brute strength, mindless assault, and unfounded confidence in their superiority. I mean, if you think you are so smart and know it all, why don't you just join the Crusaders and show them how fighting should be done? No. I am a historian, an analyst, a theorist. Do you know what these three words have in common? They describe a mortal woman who does not participate in the conflict upon which her thesis will be founded. But then again, I will hardly be able to describe this mess as anything other than a feeble likeness of the last war of Jiska. Even the monk with a damaged eye grins slyly and comments, the more dangerous the upcoming scuffle is, the more motivated we are to find clever and pretty words to justify not actually doing the fighting. Well, I have to say, you're absolutely wrong to treat the Crusaders with such disdain. Allow me to explain. A debate. Oh, I will be happy to prove that the current conflict can't hold candle to the last war of Jiska. Very well. The last war of Jiska was waged using a significantly greater number of troops. Both sides actively relied on reinforcement from allied planes, and their strategic planning was perfected through no fewer than 7 rounds of intensive design. None of the above applies to this war of yours. Compared to Jiska, we are but one stone club-wielding kobolds. I would like to conclude my thesis with a few words of wise counsel from Dagwan, an advisor to the Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues. I doubt you will comprehend the true genius of the statement, but here it is, nevertheless. A gadfly sees the ox pays no heed to the gadfly, but crimson fever takes them both. I'm good at both, but that one is like a sure success. You know, the events of the past are shrouded in legend, but the fate of the world is being decided here and now. That is what you fail to grasp. Succeeded. The earnestness of the face of those around you has taken away Indira's panache, encouraging her to backtrack and stumble over words. Of course, I'm not trying to diminish the importance of current events. What I am trying to say is that from the standpoint of history, particularly the history of warfare, she falls silent, fixedly staring at the unfriendly eyes of her audience. The true importance of these developments won't become obvious until later. Indira offers a pretentious dismissal. As a scholar, I cannot deny that there's a certain truth behind your skeptical statements. History is complex and discipline-rooted in fact, an evidentiary base that grows ever more meager, the farther the described period is from the present moment. I noticed what the problem is. I try to usually read ahead and remember the first words, so you don't have me always pausing, so I get like the mood of the text, and sometimes I piece them wrongly together. That's why I sometimes use wrong words. Well, Of course, if I were to argue in bad faith, the way Crusaders embellish their tales of slaying a single Brimorag by adding a dozen Bellas, for example, I could win this debate. But I am above such things, and therefore I am forced to admit that your skepticism is not entirely without merit. Yeah, guess what? I'm sure you would have been... No. I like the others more. Well then, I think you should get out of your shelter. Indira scoffs haughtily. Even when acting rude, the Crusaders remain deplorably simple. And this is where I bid you farewell. Before the end of the day, I was planning to observe how winged demons use pack tactics to drive their prey like herds of livestock. It is about time I got back to my research. The hint of a smile graces Indira's lip when she sees disappointment in the eyes of many Crusaders around here. Stay safe. Okay, there are teleportation spells.
Let's see what we can do.
Still in the tavern. Seelah smiles at you warmly. Hey there! During that march through the dungeon, we never got the chance to exchange a proper greeting. It's high time I shake your hand. Iribeth said your friend Jana Aldori is missing. Do you know where we should look for her? Iribeth is worried about her fighters. I understand that. I wanted to look for Jana myself, so I didn't distract you. But since you're in this too, I could use some help. Jana and I met in Kenabres a few days ago and just hit it off. Went drinking together. We went to that unforgettable celebration together too, but we got separated in the crowd. So we should start looking from the main square. That's where I last saw her. Seelah frowns. Jana's a good fighter, even if she's green. She couldn't have become an Aldori otherwise. I hope that means she's alright. So, what do you think is going on in Kenabres? It's complete chaos. It's like we're here to handle it, right? Seelah smiles brightly, then she gives you a worried look. Does the way I talk bother you? I know I can seem blasé. Many good people and our protector Terranolith died here in Kenabres. A Paladin of Iomedae is expected to be properly respectful and solemn. Anything more about... No, we read that. But I prefer to face my troubles with a smile and a bit of common sense. Grief is a weapon they use against you. It can undermine a warrior spirit. It's better we hold off on grief until we've driven the last demon and cultist from the city. I completely agree. If we want to win, we can't be mourning our deceased day and night. Plus, joy heals the soul. It's nice when you and your commander think alike. Seelah smiles softly. So, is fighting demons all you want? Or are you looking for something more? How about covering myself in glory and becoming the hero of 100 ballads? Or at least a dozen, if they are lively ones. Seelah's eyes shine cheerfully. Anyway, to be more serious, the area around the Worldwound is the best place for a paladin who wishes to defend the weak and serve good. Being part of the Crusade is a reward enough for me, but there's something that worries me. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing my brothers in arms, but the Eagle Watch and the other orders are focused on just one aim, the war against the Worldwound. That's why they can sometimes overlook the smaller things, ordinary misfortunes, you know. I've always liked being a wandering knight because any moment I could get up and go to help poor red folk whose family had been kidnapped, or an old woman whose favorite dog has gone missing. So here's my answer. I don't have some big important goal, but I'd be happy to help those who need it. A little bit here and there. I think the I'd like to know more about you is the long one usually. Can you tell me more about yourself? Of course. Ask anything, I'll answer honestly. Tell me about yourself. Where are you from? I'm a little bit from Gap, a little bit from Katapesh, but mostly from the Knights of Iomedae. I was accepted and began my training at 14. I belong to their ranks more than I belong to any other place. I was just like, oh, so you're over 28, but I mean, it's more than 2 stages, so it doesn't say anything about her age. So, you've come to Meneth by a long road, haven't you? A very long one. Seelah looks at you cheerfully. A traveler is expected to have amusing stories. Unfortunately, I only have 3 tales of any interest, and I'd like to save them for our next feast. Otherwise, I won't have anything to show for myself when it's time to start bragging. And that just won't do. Especially since I win the night with my cautionary tale of a battle with Chupacabras? I think. What? You can't tempt me with a story about fighting Chupacabras and not follow through. What are Chupacabras, by the way? Incredible, repulsive beasts. Fast and dangerous. They can... Well, it looks like someone fooled me into starting the tale. I guess now I'll have to tell this whole story. Picture a small town in Quadria, and down in the dungeon there's 2 murderers waiting to be executed. The gallows are already built for them. The rope's been bought, but sometimes life takes a surprising turn. Suddenly, a Paladin of Iomedae appears in the doorway and offers the murderers a deal. If they go with her to fight some monsters, they'll live. If they survive, that is. Quadira. The westernmost satrapy of the Padishah Empire of Kalish. Quadira is a kingdom with the power of the sprawling empire at its back. Quadira is Kalish's doorway to the inner sea region, and is perhaps the single most valuable piece of real estate on Golarion. There's a big difference between imminent death and probable death with a glimmer of hope, wouldn't you say? So, here we are, traveling through the desert, me and my friend, a priestess of Sarenrae, along with a little red folk fellow who'd ask for our help, and the 2 cutthroats. We get to the red folk village and see their bodies lying around, all drained dry. We figured that we'd have to fight vampires. That's how the little red folk described the monsters who attacked the village. That's why we went all in brazen-like. The sun was high and the vampires couldn't attack until dusk. Sarenrae is a really nice goddess. I don't know, I don't think you can see it. There's also... maybe there. There's also one piece of wood art I did. You can also see it on my Instagram if you care. Known to have faith of the Dawnflower, the Healing Light, and the Everlight, Sarenrae is a goddess who teaches temperance and patience in all things. Compassion and peace are her greatest virtues, and if enemies of the faith can be redeemed, they should be. Worships of this goddess of healing, honesty, redemption, and the sun began far to the east of the inner sea, in the vast Padishah Empire of Kalish, but her worshippers can now be found throughout the world. But we never got a chance to look around. Black shadows, quick as the wind, attacked us from all sides, and vampires like Chupacabras. One of the lads we pulled from the gallows got killed right away. The second one ran for his life. That left me, the red folk, and Kyra. That was the name of the priestess, and we all seated ourselves for the fight of our lives. And just when we thought the end had come, with the Chupacabras surrounding me like a pack of dogs around a bear, our red folk friend wounded and down, and the teeth of the quickest of those blasted monsters clenched on Kyra's shoulder. Right then, when all hope was lost, the other lad from the gallows suddenly comes running back. He kills the beast attacking Kyra. I'm sure you know what a turning point in a fight looks like. Well, this was it. A moment before, we were lost, and a moment later, we had it back under control. Chupacabras dropped dead, one by one. The little red folk is reunited with his family, who were hiding in the basement. The priestess and I closed the eyes of the boy from the gallows who saved us. It was a shame he didn't survive the fight. May the gods keep his soul in its journey through the afterlife. That's quite the good story. He could have died in disgrace on the gallows, but instead he died a hero. And I'd fancy the stunt earned him some points in his final judgment. It's smart to remember our journey doesn't end in death. Had it not been for that mercy, Milos, that was his name, would be hanging from a noose, and me, Kyra, and all the red folk would be dead in that village. Someone told me that a kind deed done by an unkind person is 100 times more precious. By the same token, an evil done by a noble soul is 100 times more horrifying. That's what I really want to say. The Chupacabras were just a good starting point. So, what made you become a Paladin of Iomedae? Seelah's gaze sharpens momentarily, then she sighs. That's a serious question, and a good one. You should ask it of your companions, but it's a long story. To start with, 12 years ago, I was nothing like the person I am now. I roamed the streets... Whoops. Almost tipped over my mug. I roamed the street of Thalku with the other homeless orphans. I stole, I fought, I was high at sword for a bit. Not the proper origin for a paladin. Back then, Thalku was a city of orphans, widows and widowers. Gnolls decimated the city regularly. My parents were among these victims, but people there heard about new deaths before they'd finished mourning their previous losses. One day, a group of knights of Iomedae brought a glimmer of hope to the city, but while others saw them as saviors and protectors, I was busy pricing up their noble horses and their gleaming mithril armor, wondering just how much one of their pretty souls would fetch. Well. Sorry. A thief lives one day at a time, that's what they say. I was the type that never thought past the next job. Anyhow, I was able to sneak into the knight's camp and steal one of their mithril helms. Seelah pauses, her voice sad and measured. And I was right there when a gnoll attacked the helm's owner. Asemi was her name, and dealt a blow to her unprotected head. A gnoll, like all the others, she'd fearlessly driven from the gates of Thalku. That one blow was fatal. But who was really to blame for her death, the gnoll attacker, or the young thief named Seelah? Well, I have to say, life is cruel and full of chaos. Sometimes survival just comes down to luck. So that's how you see it. Seelah looks at you with curiosity, but no hostility. I can't accept that point of view. If the story of my youth taught me anything, it's that we are all accountable for our actions. It's too easy to wave off responsibility if you use the cruelty of life as an excuse. But you were asking what brought me into the ranks of Iomedae's warriors. We all choose the paladin's path for our own reasons. Some are guided by nobility of spirit, some by a desire to fight injustice. I became who I am through penance and a debt unpaid. The day Aasimar died protecting my city, I wanted to kill myself for the terrible guilt I felt. But then I realized it wouldn't make the world any better, and I decided that instead I'd try to take her place. I'd become she had been and protect the innocent that she would no longer be able to protect. So, what exactly are the principles that Paladins of Iomedae follow? Seelah smiles. I tell you, I like to recite our code. It feels like I've said it 1,000 times, but it's never get old. There's strength in these words. After a pause, she begins, her voice low and meditative. I will learn the weight of my sword. Without my heart to guide it, it is worthless. My strength is not in my sword, but in my heart. If I lose my sword, I've lost a tool. If I betray my heart, I have died. I will have faith in the inheritor. I will channel her strength through my body. It will shine in her legion, and I will not tarnish her glory through base actions. I'm the first into battle and the last to leave it. I will not be taken prisoner but my free will. I will not surrender those under my command. I will never abandon a companion, though I will honor sacrifice freely given. I will guard the honor of my fellows, both thought and deed, and I will have faith in them. When in doubt, I may force my enemies to surrender, but I am responsible for their lives. I will never refuse a challenge from an equal. I will give honor to worthy enemies and contempt to the rest. I will suffer death before dishonor. I will be temperate in my actions and moderate in my behavior. I will strive to emulate Iomedae's perfection. Quite... I don't know, I think there are parts that Logan would agree on, and there are parts where he would definitely disagree on. I think it's mainly him being way more chaotic than Iomedae. Thank you, I've learned everything I wanted to know. I hope I didn't bore you. Ask me something else if you like. Thank you for speaking with me. Until next time. See you. Alright. A tall, athletic man greets you. His hair is prematurely grey, and shorn close to his head in military style. He is lean and well-groomed, and a monocle twinkles coldly in his eye. The bold set of his jaw and his large but agile frame attest that he is a man who is always ready to be on the move. Greetings. Greetings. I am Seelah, Venture Captain of the Pathfinder Society. Pathfinder? I'm the superior officer among Pathfinders in this region of Mendef. However, the Society is running almost no operations here right now. Beside me, there are almost no Pathfinders here. Actually, I'm only stuck here because of an old feud with a demon worshipper known as the Spinner of Nightmares. I've had to work alone, without the support of the Society, but I've made a lot of acquaintances among the local mercenaries and daring fighters. If you need any good fighters for an honest cause, just talk to me. This was interesting. Tell me about your confrontation with the Spinner of Nightmares. It all began with tasks of the Pathfinder Society. Oh, I didn't read that one. Well, I arrived in Nerosian with my team to investigate the sudden death of a famous crusader, Baron Falron. That seems kind of familiar, the name. We soon focused in on a small hospital for the wealthy, where Falron was being treated shortly before his death. It turned out that the gang of Baphomet cultists calling themselves the Labyrinth of Mind had gotten a foothold at the hospital. Pathfinder Society. The Pathfinder Society is a globe-spanning organization based in Absalom. The membership consists primarily of Pathfinders, adventurers who travel throughout Golarion, usually inconspicuously, and explore, delve, and otherwise experience the lesser-seen parts of the world. They send journals documenting their travels back to their venture captains, who also assign them new missions and suggest new places to explore. The most exciting and illuminating of these journals are compiled in the Pathfinder Chronicles, an ongoing series of books that collect the history and mystery of Golarion for its membership and the general public. Yeah, so adventurers usually are Pathfinders, so I guess. They were obsessed with twisting the minds of their victims and targeted fragile people too weak to resist. The hospital was filled with perfect victims, isolated for weeks from the outside world, completely hopeless. And when they returned, they were different, almost normal. But the moment they heard a certain phrase, something dark awoke in their minds, and they transformed into servants of Baphomet, ready to lie, betray, and even kill. The Labyrinth of Mind was prepared to infiltrate all the elite circles in Mendef, but Baron Falron stopped them. That's a pretty twisted and nice strategy. He was too loyal to his oath and too resistant to their spells. He fought for his freedom until the strain broke his heart. We opened and cleaned the city of Baphomet's pit of vipers. Their den was a cradle of sin and filth. They cast spells on each other, their loathsome fantasies stepped real from their minds into the world. They dreamt of horrible and forbidden things, and they fought like mad. We burnt the place to the ground and slaughtered everyone we could. But the leaders of the cult were able to flee, and they were set up on revenge. They abducted my daughter, Lori, who served under my command in the Pathfinder Society. They left me a note of tart insults, mockery, and sneers. From that note, I learned the name of my enemy, the Spinner of Nightmares. A few months later, I confirmed that she was the leader of the Labyrinth Mind. My hunt had begun. I would get Lori back at any cost. He looked a thief with bulldog determination. Alright. I think you can recruit new people here. And maybe retrain. I have to go. Good luck. Watch your back. Only trust your closest friends. The enemy is cunning and treacherous.